So over the summer we asked a number of people in the congregation who have particular prophetic gifting, they're people who have a real gift to hear from God, to pray with us for where God might be calling us to as a congregation. And through them, and also through some most extraordinary circumstances and other things, we really feel that God has been speaking to us. The bit that I prayed at the beginning, and also the passage that Debbie Pierce read in worship, those are two of the pieces, and I'm going to share quite a few more. But I wanted to just start, before we go anywhere, I just want to share two of the things that we really feel God has said over the summer. So the first one was that about 2 weeks ago, a bit more than that now, Laura and I got to go to New Wine for one day, literally for one day. New Wine's a big Christian conference, if you know of it. And we got to go to one meeting, and we met up with Steve and Ali. And in that one meeting, a lady bumped into Ali. Now, as a friend of Ali's who she'd not seen for 2 years. And 2 years ago, this friend of Ali had committed to pray for Church at Ford, right when it was just getting going. And she felt that God had something really specific to say to Church at Ford. But just after she kind of felt that, she got very ill. She actually got cancer. And so we never got to hear what she felt God was saying to us. But amazing is we were in this one meeting. It was a brilliant meeting. We'd been there about 5 minutes, and this lady walked straight up and said, "I've got something that I really think God wants to say to you." And it was from Joshua 1, verse 9, which I'm just going to put on the screen, if I can. Was it working? Sorry. There you go. "Have I not commanded you, Church at Ford? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." Isn't that amazing? And to with that, there was somebody here in the congregation who felt that God was saying to us here that this was time for us to stretch out our tent pegs, to dream and see wider, higher and bigger with Him. And this person had these two verses for us. Isaiah 33:10. "Now will I arise, says the Lord. Now will I be exalted. Now will I be lifted up." And verse 17. "Your eyes will see the King in His beauty and view a land that stretches afar." So, we're a people who believe that God speaks today, and you can imagine why we've been a little bit excited as we've been preparing today, because we really had a sense that God is up to something. So, before we kind of go any further with that, what I want to do is backtrack right back to the beginning, and I'm sorry if you know all this, but I just thought it would be really helpful to answer some fairly fundamental questions. So firstly, who are we? So what is Church at Ford, and what's it about? So the question that generally gets raised, and I hear most weeks, is: are you a church plant? Are you a service? What are you? And the answer is fairly clearly neither, basically. So a church plant is what happens when a group of believers go to a place where there is no Christian community and they start something basically new. And so clearly, here in the Parish of Chandlers Ford, in this Anglican parish, both here and at St Boniface, there are active Christian communities, and so therefore we are not a church plant. We're not a church plant. Our goal is to seek the blessing of the parish. Ian, who was up here a minute ago, is the big boss of this parish. He is the vicar of Chandlers Ford. He should be called Sir or something like that. But Ian is the boss, and he's now my boss, so I have to say nice things about him. Not really. But in our role, therefore, is to be an active part of this parish. So we see ourselves, as Church at Ford, as actively part of this parish. And we want to see God's kingdom come and God's will done in this parish. And many of us are already actively involved in the parish. So some of us are in PCCs, and we're involved in other committees and all sorts of other things that go on through the parish. Well, so therefore, does that mean that we're just a service in the parish? And the answer to that is also no. Because one of the things that we felt right at the beginning of the journey was that Church at Ford existed to be a unique community. It existed to be a specific community that had a very clear vision for where God was calling. And that vision, which hasn't changed at all, was all about proclaiming the love of Jesus in Chandlers Ford. And whilst that does fit in with what the parish is about, we also sit with quite a clear identity, and we have our own leadership teams. And aside from that, so I wanted to just say that, just kind of at the beginning, because I want to say really clearly that we are very much part of this parish, and we are committed to it, and we are seeking to be a real blessing to it. But we also retain quite a lot of distinctives, and we have all sorts of slightly quirky things about Church at Ford that you may not see in other services and other congregations in this parish. So that's it. So that's who we are. Leadership team, you've just met the leadership team, and here's an accurate representation of them all. As you see, they're all very beautiful. You can see the odd one out there. Can you see which one's the odd one out? Steve Hill clearly has photoshopped his own photograph there, you see? Unbelievable behaviour, I feel. We'll pray for him. Everyone else, you can see we need prayer for all sorts of things. But that's us as a leadership team. Sorry, leadership team. But I just wanted to quickly go through the leadership team and just say a little bit about how our role's going to be. We've had 8 people in the leadership team for the last 2 years, and one of those, Fee, has gone off to run her own church, so we're down to 7 now. And we've done a little bit of kind of restructuring. So as Ian says, basically from today, 1st of September, for my sins, I become a trainee vicar. I'm sure that's not the right thing to say, but I am a trainee vicar in the parish, so I will be responsible day to day for Church at Ford under Ian's leadership, and the rest of the leadership team will continue in their roles. But we've kind of just changed things around a little bit, just so you know. So I just want to quickly run through everyone. So first person, very important, Ian. So Ian's in charge of Church at Ford, but he's also in charge of the rest of the parish. So if anything, we might see a little bit less of Ian this term, only because he has so much else going on in the parish at the moment. But Ian will continue to be very much part of our life, and Ian will be taking communions and all sorts of good stuff over the course of the term. That's me, and I will be particularly I will be here in the parish for 3 days each week. I'm going to be training at St Mellitus College, London, for the rest of my time, but for 3 days a week I will be here in Chandlers Ford, and I'm going to be particularly looking at what does it mean for us to meet together, where is God calling us to be, preaching, pastoring, all those good things, which is really, really exciting. That's me. Laura, who doesn't have a moustache, just in case you were wondering. Laura has been our children's minister for the last 2 years in the parish, and that's been great. She's been on some comment from Christchurch. Today actually marks the start of her maternity leave. So you will notice she's been getting a bit large. I must just be careful how I say that, because she's my wife. She's wonderful, and in November we're expecting our second child. So Laura starts her maternity leave today officially. However, for the next month she is going to be carrying on looking after kind of children and youth in Church at Ford. And then as she finds herself up to her shoulders in sick and vomit, and that's not because she's going back to Soul Survivor, but because we have a baby, she's going to be passing on some more of the responsibility for children's work to May, who is also a massive part of the Church at Ford journey and part of our leadership team. So May will be looking after our children's work, particularly whilst Laura's on leave. So that's that. The beautiful Ali Hill has been a really central part of the Church at Ford journey over the last few years, not just because she's so beautiful, but because of all sorts of other things as well. And we're so blessed that she has agreed to spend some of her own time, literally off her own back, a couple of days each week, looking after our pastoral care and our prayer as a community. We see those as massive components of who we are and where we're going. So Ali's going to be in charge of that, and that is absolutely brilliant. And she's going to be talking in a little bit about home groups and what home groups look like in the context of pastoral care. Steve, the photoshopped Steve Hill on a different body. Steve, apart from supporting Ali in all that she does, and apart from making tea and coffee in the middle of services, Steve is going to be helping us look at teaching programs. So where God is calling us to spend our time on Sundays and in our home groups, what God's calling us to look at as a community together. And then last but in no ways least is our air traffic controller in his uniform, Brian, who's going to take the role this year of Sunday Services Coordinator. So what that means is basically if you're on a Gopher team, or if you're on a Welcome team, or if you're on a Refreshment team, or any of the teams related to Sundays, he will be your link man now. So all of that is not hugely important, but I thought it'd be good, let's just at the beginning of the year, now you know who we all are, we'll be serving you tea and coffee in a minute. If you want to talk to us about anything, we were really, really happy to talk to you, but that is basically us. So the much more important question, and the thing that we really, really, really wanted to look at is where we're going. where we're going. And just before I kind of launch into that, I just want to say just the very final few things about leadership. The first thing is that we have had a massive emphasis in our journey so far in Church of Ford in every member ministry. Now that is jargon in Christian world, but what it really means is that it's a journey that we take together. So even though we're doing a bit of restructuring, and even though some of us in the parish have a little bit more time to commit, we're really committed to this idea that's been a complete reality, and I've never been in a congregation like it, that we share the journey together and everybody gets stuck in. Everybody gets stuck in. And I will be the first person, honestly, in a year's time, if we've suddenly become a kind of professional Christianity cultured church, I will be the first person out, I think. Because simply speaking, that's God has called us to kind of be in this together, and that's absolutely what we want to entertain. Practically, just quickly though, Wednesdays and Thursdays we're hoping and praying and planning to have a little office at St Boniface, a Church at Fort office, which is going to be upstairs at St Boniface. So what that means though is that myself and Ali and Laura and others will be there on Wednesdays and Thursdays on and off. So come along and see us. We're great to see you. We have tea, coffee, and we like cake. And we're available to be taken out for lunches at any point, and we're wonderful, and it would be lovely to get to know you. And personally, I just wanted to say, really, apart from just saying it's a massive privilege to be in leadership at Church of Ford, that I would really like to use some of my time to get to know some of you guys a little better. So I like steak, and I'm available from 1 to 2 p.m. most lunch times, so it'd be great to spend some time with you. Not really, no would. So that's that. Okay. So where are we going? Much more importantly. Much more importantly. So we have been really excited. We have lived with this sense that's been growing all year, that this was a new time. My prayer for Church of Ford has been, God, would you now start to open the taps on us as a journey? We've spent 2 years getting to know each other, and that's been great, but where is God calling us to go? And I just want to share some things that God has been saying. The first one is this. Jesus says in Matthew 5, he says, you, talking to his disciples, you are the light of the world. A town built on a hill can't be hidden, and neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. And in the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. And Jesus goes on, he says elsewhere, he says, I, Jesus, am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of light. So if you put these amazing kind of concepts together, you have this truth that for those of us who know Jesus, we have the light of life inside of us, and it is ours to shine. And it's the concept of light that's been the thing that's completely captivated us all year. We started Church of Ford, predominantly because God called us to, but our heart was that we might proclaim the good news of Jesus here in Chandlers Ford. We long that people in Chandlers Ford might come to know Jesus. And if you want to put it into a phrase, basically we're about knowing Jesus better for us and making him known. We're about knowing Jesus and making him known. Knowing Jesus better and making him known. You might remember over the year we've had a number of pictures that have been about light. People have been praying. The first one was about a lighthouse. A picture of the church as a lighthouse in Chandlers Ford. A lighthouse, they shine very, very brightly in the darkness. They issue kind of light and safety and help and warning and all sorts of things into the darkness. And that has really resonated with us as we thought about where God might be calling us to. And the other one was a picture of Church at Ford as a sort of neon lit up house in at Christmas time, so on a very dark street. So proclaiming. So what we're really committed to, the first thing we really want to say is that we're committed to understanding a little bit more of what this looks like for us. So a few things that I would say is I don't think it necessarily means we all need to go and stand on the nearest corner and start shouting or dress in neon or anything like that. But it is about communicating, and it's about proclaiming the love of Jesus to this town. And we're just so excited about what that could look like. But also, in part, it is the journey that we want to take together. Leadership in Church at Ford remains something that we do together. So this term, and maybe even into next year, we're going to be looking at John's Gospel together. Here on Sundays, and we're going to be looking at it in our home groups. And what we're really asking the question of is how do we do this light thing? Why was it that Jesus came? What was it about? What was Jesus really doing when he came to earth? What does that actually mean in our world today? What is the implications of that? Because I know from my own life that if I could just grasp that, even if just in part, if I really knew what the difference between being dead and being alive was, between basically going nowhere and a relationship with Jesus, then it would change everything. And that's really what we want to uncover together. So as I say, we're going to be doing Tom Wright's series on John, and I really commend that to you because it looks really, really exciting. But partly also, I think there's a calling here to be bright. So there is a reality, and I'm not making a pop at any particular group of people, but there is a reality of our church in this country that is getting a little bit shy, and a little bit dim, and a little bit scared, and a little bit worried at the moment. And my longing for us as a community is that we would be bright, and we'll be unashamed. And whether that means we have to go and buy a 40-foot blimp and hang it over the church, or we get all the billboards in Chandlers Ford, or we get Matt Bird to do us a TV advert, or I have no idea. But we are going to ask that question together, and we love it if you would join with us as we explore that. But one of the great things about Church at Ford, Jesus says this. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. So ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field." So that's an amazing truth. But one of the things we've really seen this summer, particularly in Holiday Club, is the reality of that the harvest is plentiful. People are ready to hear about Jesus. We have seen that over the summer, and it's absolutely brilliant. And he has sent some workers out. So we're here. Unlucky, but we're here. And that's great. Absolutely brilliant. The final thing just on light is I just wanted to share this passage, and this was again somebody felt from Church at Ford that this was something that God was wanting to say. This was months and months after we started feeling that God was talking to us about light. This was the opening passage from New Wine, this big Christian conference this summer, and obviously I've changed the word nation to Chandlers Ford, but I think it applies really well. So we believe this is a critical time for this nation, for Chandlers Ford. If the church lives up to its billing as the light of the world, then the darkness will be scattered. If the church hides or loses its light, then its light's out for the nations. Chandlers Ford desperately needs a church filled to the full and overflowing with the transforming life of the Spirit. And that's absolutely what we're about. The other part of being light is, of course, a reality that this isn't about us, just about us. This isn't about our ability to do anything. It's about a loving God, a Holy Spirit who lives in us. And we want to have, as Ephesians 6 calls us to have, eyes to see things spiritually. That our fight, our battle, our calling is not actually against human beings. It's against things that happen in the spiritual realms. And we want to have eyes and really trust the Holy Spirit to guide us as we take the journey together. But the other part of the journey is about is this bit, which is about a kind of continual journey from becoming friends to family. And let me explain that a little bit. And I think this is a journey that's started, and it's great. Over the last 2 years, we've had a great time being friends. We've had lots of laughter, mostly at other people's expenses, which has been great. It's been brilliant. And we've really had great socials, and we've come along on Sundays, and that's been brilliant. But I'm really convinced that God has us also on a journey, which is that transformation from being friends, which is ultimately about knowing people for fun's sake and knowing people for our own benefit, to being part of a family, which is about loving each other, is about being committed to each other, is about knowing each other and living out lives together. Hayden, completely off his own back, took us to Acts 2, which a couple of weeks ago, and that was the very first passage that Church at Ford ever studied. And it says this: they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship. This is the first church, by the way, the first church that ever existed. To the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe. at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes. They ate together. They were with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favour of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. Isn't that such a model of family? Isn't it? That is family. People who met together, they loved each other, they supported each other, they gave stuff to each other. They were family. And that is so my prayer for us, that we would continue to see that realisation. And I say continue because I think we've seen some of that this summer as well. For those that were involved in Soul Survivor Puke Fest 2013, we saw the reality of what it looks like to be family, whether we liked it or not. For those who helped, Laura and I move house this week, thank you. We really saw the reality of what that looks like to be family. But I think there's so much further, and we're challenging our youth to do that at the moment. We're challenging our challenges as a church. So could we be that kind of family so that people would come to this place, they would engage with our community, and they might say, we've got no idea what that Jesus stuff is about. We've got no idea what you're talking about yet. But there is something about you guys. There's something about the way you love each other. There's something about the way you look after each other. There's something about the way you care for each other that says a huge amount about what you believe and about what you stand for. And that's my prayer, that we might see that realisation. So in a minute, what we're going to do is just kind of have, in our work of being family, we're going to have 5 minutes to have some coffee together. And so if the leadership team could just start to work on some beverages for us, that would be great.